Hello everyone, got a new to me piece of equipment for my shop. And if you're looking at the floor and seeing all the sawdust that I've raked out of it so far, you might be thinking it's a belt sander, and you probably wouldn't be wrong thinking that because that's what they was using that as. The most basic difference between a belt sander and a belt grinder, without getting into all details and making this a long video, is a belt grinder runs much faster, or maybe it's much faster than a belt sander. That's the most basic differences. This machine is a Sundstrand Engelberg, or it's a Sundstrand machine tool, or it's an Engelberg, or it's a Sundstrand. I don't know what to actually call this thing. I do know that I can't find any of these online, or at least not this model number. I did find one other model number, and I found two different versions of that same model number. We'll get back to that in a second. This is Sundstrand Engelberg Precision Abrasive Belt Grinders, Sundstrand Machine Tool, division of Sundstrand Corporation, Belvidere, Illinois. It is a style 648, which that makes sense because this is a 6-inch wide by 48-inch belt. Without a comparison on that serial number, no clue, how many of these things were made. With that SE on the end of it, we can't say that this is a 708th one made because they could have kept changing that prefix or whatever at the end, so we don't know. Has a knob here to be able to stand it up vertically. Figured I'd show you that while we're over here. I don't know if it unscrews or pulls. It will not do either without forcing it, and I kind of don't want to force it until I figure it out. Down to the motor. Since this thing was modified into a belt sander, or used as a belt sander, and I know it's been slightly modified, I don't know if this is original the motor. But what this motor is Wagner Electric Corporation, made in St. Louis, United States of America, alternating current motor type, KA. I assume that what's in that box, you can look that up. I tried looking it up, I couldn't come up with anything. But I assume that tells you if it's an induction motor or whatever other type of motors there are. The frame is 75. That's just how it mounts. Huge model number. Tried looking it up. Didn't come up with nothing. I figured the number that specific, if it comes up, it's going to be this exact motor. 3/4 horsepower, 1725, one phase, 60 cycles. I don't know if 3/4 horsepower is going to be enough for this. I did an experiment trying to convert a sander into a grinder. I used a 1/2 horsepower, but it was a newer 1/2 horsepower motor. It was not enough, but it was almost enough. It pissed me off, and I jumped right up to 2 horsepower. So it's possible a 3/4 motor could have worked. 110 volts. It uses 10 amps. 220 volts, 5 amps. This is wired for 220 volts. And the serial number, once again, has a letter at the end of it, so we don't know if this is the 12th one built or much more because they kept changing the letter. So if we come up here and do a walk around, you can see it had a place for a vacuum of some sort. Looking at the other two model numbers that I seen, well, sorry, the other model number I seen, but the other two versions I seen of that same model number. The shield should come up to about this spot here, which is also where the table was. So it should wrap around and stop just below the table. Same thing over here. It should come up to about this feature here, because the other ones had this same little feature, and stop approximately at where that feature ends. If we take a look inside, this is where you'll start noticing some differences if you're familiar with belt sanders. Because the first thing you should notice is how big that pulley is. Belt sander pulley is normally only about this big. That's about approximately 3-inch. This is 5 5/8. It's actually 5.6, but it's got a crown to it, so I'm assuming the center is 5 5/8. It is a balance pulley. They actually balanced these. The belt sander I had was not balanced. Both of them balanced. You can see there's the other balance right there. You can see where it snagged up a belt at one time and pulled it in there. It is ball bearings, which is good. Pretty much the sky's the limit on our speed if we got bearings in there, and we do. I was afraid it was plain bearings, but they're not. They're ball bearings, which I'll show you here in a minute. Over here, this I thought was the tracking, but this is actually the tensioner. This is actually the tracking. And I know that because I just pulled it apart. And I was kind of confused. And I figured out how it worked. So I will share that with you if I can ever get this stinking belt off of there. So how this thing works is, like I said, this is your tension, or this is your tracking. This is your tensioner. If we look where we just pulled this from, it's like a C channel in there. Well, it's actually enclosed. So it sets against this point, and this point, and this point. If you look straight down on this, you'll notice, and it took me a couple minutes to figure this out. I couldn't understand how it was working. This sticks out further than this. Get a straight edge. It'll make, I don't know if you fellas can see that on the camera very easy. When you draw that screw down, which is right down here, see the marks right in the center of the screen? What that does is that tilts this thing. So it's machined to be at a natural angle this way to exaggerate. And then as you draw that bolt down, you can take it this way to exaggerate. And I can actually show you the bearing in this right here. If that piece wasn't in the way, I could almost focus on the actual number. Let me set this off to the side. I'm afraid it's going to fall off there. This thing's missing the table. That kind of bums me out. I'm not worried about the shields, but the table bums me out a little bit. I wanted the table, so I'm going to be either buying one or making one. Whatever comes first. So I think that's about the gist of this. Oh, I didn't cover the stand. The two other models that I seen, I keep saying two other models. I've only seen two models of this. I've seen a model 506 in pictures, and I've seen this model, which is a 648. The two other versions of the 506 I've seen, neither one of them had a stand like this. The one had a cabinet like that where it could catch coolant. It was a wet sander. And the other one just had a simple pedestal, like what's underneath my DeWalt grinder there. But it was I don't know, approximately 5-inch diameter cast iron pedestal, so really, really heavy duty. This stand, if you've been paying attention, you probably think it looks familiar already. If you've really been paying attention, you just saw it right here. That looks like the identical stand, except the only difference that I found is this stand here is welded. It's been spot welded at the factory. This stand here is bolted together. Now here's where one of our modifications starts coming into play. That belt was too long. I don't know why it was too long. I don't know if they broke a belt and they only had a longer belt, so then they proceeded to modify the machine to make the belt fit. Or what's going on. Or they ripped this whole works out of another cabinet and put it on this stand, which is actually possibly a Delta. I don't know. I do know that they dropped this shelf down lower than it should be. There's 3 holes there where you can set it. They added a 4th hole and bolted the shelf so they could get that belt motor lower so they could get tension on the belt. Well, then they overshot it a little bit. You can see the shims they got under there. The mistake they made is they didn't put a bolt over here. So there's only 4 bolts down here when there should be 8, like the top. And the top bolts are loose. See what that means is if you got a buddy, he can come over and grab this handle that's over there. And while you're grinding, he can go like this, and now you got an oscillating sander. Only one in existence. Tighten them bolts up. That'll really get stiff, because that is a really nice stand over there under that one. So once I tighten them bolts up, this will be a nice little stand. The power on this seems correct, which I got to get in there anyways. Might as well do it now. Let's take a look. It appears to be the correct box, at least for the time period. So take a look at it and see, and that is a 3-phase switch. The hell? When they wired the ground into, what the hell? I'm glad I didn't hook that thing up. I guess it's wired. I don't know. So for single phase terminal, why in the hell they got the ground over there? So this should be a hot wire, and this should be a hot wire. So I don't know what they got going on here, but that ground wire needs cut and grounded to the box, and this needs cut off of there, or unscrewed and ground to the box. What the hell? Let me get this thing wired up, and this video actually run a bit long, so I'll just make another video of firing it up and end this video where it is now. So thanks for watching, and if you want to see it fired up, just keep an eye out for my other video.